order. This is the village board meeting, Tuesday, March 11th. We'd all stand. We'll have trustee DeVivo lead us in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Costa?
Present.
Trustee DeVivo? Present. Trustee K. Janice?
Present.
Trustee Sable? Present. Trustee Sweet? Present. Trustee Yukich?
Present.
Mayor Daley?
Present. Okay, are there any amendments to the agenda? Is there a motion to approve the minutes of January 14, 2014?
So moved.
First by trustee DeVivo. Trustee DeVivo.
Second.
Second by trustee K. Janice. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
Nay.
Okay. Let the record show trustee Sabo voted nay. Motion carries. This would be F1. Is there a motion to open up the public hearing on an ordinance authorizing the execution of an annexation agreement for approximately 1.3 acres of property located at 15810 West 139th Street, Lockport, Illinois?
So moved.
First by trustee DeVivo.
Second.
Second by trustee Costa. The public hearing on an ordinance authorizing the execution of an annexation agreement for approximately 1.3 acres of property located at 15810 West 139th Street, Lockport, Illinois is open for comments. Is there anybody that wishes to comment on the annexation agreement? Okay, I'll ask it again. Does anybody like to comment on this annexation agreement? Okay. The meeting will be called back to order. The next agenda item.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I apologize. Can I just ask a quick question?
Sure.
The public hearing, this was all publicized in public? Okay.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, that's all, thank you.
yeah, I believe that one of the trustees called up and asked it too. They didn't see the sign.
Just wanted to make
It was up.
Okay.
Okay, the meeting will be called back to order. The next agenda item is reports and communications. I'll start out. Every month seems to bring more good economic development news. Bob and Terry Henschel, Homer Glen residents and owners of B&B Heating and Cooling, currently located in Orland Park, have purchased a 9,930 square foot building at the northeast corner of Anaco Drive and 159th Street. The two-story building will become the new base of operations for their heating and cooling contracting business. I welcome I hope I'm saying it right, Henschels and B&B Heating and Cooling to Homer Glen. The village also received a permit application for a retail optical shop, US Vision, which will be located within the new Meyer store. There are 2 available spaces within the Meyer store for rented commercial space. US Vision will take one of those available spaces. US Vision is a national retailer with over 750 retail locations in 48 states and Canada. We look forward to the grand opening of US Vision and Myers in the upcoming months. Have a seat there, Bob.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be late, Mayor.
Just
That's the
busting.
first time.
Early voting continues this week in the boardroom from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. The last day for early voting is Friday, March 14th. To date, the village has had over 70 people vote at the village hall. I encourage everybody to take advantage of early voting. The village will also serve as a polling place for the primary election on Tuesday, March 18th from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. in the village boardroom. ComEd is offering budget billing programs to assist their customers facing financial hardship this year. The company is now offering flexible budget billing and flexible deferred payment agreement options to assist customers receiving higher than normal bills in light of the severe cold weather impacting Illinois. Information on ComEd's customer assistance programs can be found on the village's website at www.homerglenil.org or contact ComEd at 1-888-806-2273. Regarding the McDonald's petition before us tonight, I fully support the 3 items brought before us tonight by McDonald's. I want to express my appreciation to McDonald's for their proposed significant investment in Homer Glen. I look forward to cutting a ribbon in the future in their fully remodeled restaurant. And finally, I'd just like to wish everybody a happy St. Patrick's Day. And with that being said, we'll move on to trustees. How about Trustee Costa?
No report tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, how about Trustee Yukich?
No report tonight, Mr. Mayor.
How about Trustee Sabo?
Yes, I have a report, Mr. Mayor.
Go right ahead.
I'm reporting on behalf of the Environment Committee on the Earth Day Arbor Day 2014 celebration. Applications are being accepted for Earth Day Arbor Day on Saturday, May 17th from 11 to 4 p.m. at the Cornell Farm on Cedar Road. A recent addition is the Northern Illinois Raptor Association, who does rehabilitate birds of prey. The birds in their care will be presented in a great number and a variety of owls, hawks, and kestrels, to name a few. The committee is encouraging sponsors to help sponsor more interesting activities. We are seeking local talent from Homer Glen and surrounding communities to perform green demonstrations and arts and crafts for people who meet the theme of recycle, reuse, and natural materials. Volunteers are necessary to make this event work efficiently. The jobs are fine and rewarding. The committee is also seeking individuals who are interested in becoming a member of the Environment Committee, and the committee's next meeting will be Tuesday, April 2nd at 7 p.m. That's it.
Thank you, Trustee Sabo. Trustee Kay James?
No report tonight, Mr. Mayor.
How about Trustee Sweets?
No report, Mayor. Just a reminder that the Harvest Days Committee meeting is tomorrow at 7 o'clock in the township offices. If someone is interested in joining our committee, please come to a meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. How about Trustee DeVivo?
No report, Mayor.
Okay. Do we have a treasurer's report? No treasurer's report. How about the clerk? Clerk.
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. How about the village attorney, Mark? How about you update the board on the subcommittee's progress with updating the village's liquor license ordinance?
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd be happy to do that. And I've received some valuable comments from the village staff about proposed amendments to the liquor ordinance. Those have been incorporated into a draft. I've met several times with the subcommittee consisting of Trustee Yukich and Trustee Gajanis. Most recently, before tonight's board meeting, I'm going to take those comments as well as the final comments from the staff and incorporate those into amendments, proposed amendments to the liquor ordinance, and hopefully have that to the board next week.
Great. Great. All right. Are there any task force chairpersons that'd like to say anything? All right. How about any public safety officials? How about the village manager?
Thank you, Mayor. I had to leave the room for a minute because I forgot to get copies. Those copies in the back of the room that you see on the table there, those are the latest plans from IDOT for 159th Street. And they are available, of course, for the board to look at or anyone from the public. We have them in a conference room here. There's 600 pages. If you are very interested in the details of the plan and you would like a staff member to sit down with you, whether it's the public or the board, Michael is certainly willing to do that because some of the plans are a little bit like reading Greek. And so you just have to let him know so he can schedule it in his schedule and put it on his calendar. But there, anyone from the public, if you want to look at them tonight while you're here, you certainly can at the end of the meeting. A couple other things. First of all, I want to wish Creighton a good rest of his career. This is his last meeting with us, our reporter from the Homer Horizon. So he's been a real good person to work with, and we appreciate wishing him well. ComEd vegetation removal. I've updated the board a little bit about the notices that we got from ComEd. They'll be doing some vegetation removal whenever spring arrives. And they got back with us with some more specific information about specifically where they'll be doing vegetation removal. So we're getting ready to put that up on the website. and you'll see it in your weekly report this week, very specific about where that's going to take place. Also, in your mailboxes, I think right now is a list of all the questions that we submitted to Will County about the Bell Road project from 151st to 159th. And the county has already gotten back to us with answers on all those questions. They did that very quickly. So all that is in your mailbox, along with a copy of a photo of the sound wall that they selected as a part of that project. So that's in your mailbox too, if you want to grab that before you leave tonight. Let's see, what else? Mayor, I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Cam. The next portion of this meeting will be public comment. Thanks, Mark. There's a couple crossed out, the first and second one are crossed out, but if you'd like to speak, go right ahead. Yale, Y-A-E-L, C-D-O-N, is that correct?
That's me.
Go right ahead.
Close. My name is Elsa Glen, and I live at 17421 Crystal Lake Drive. And this is like my second time at Village Hall, which is pretty amazing considering that in like the 10 years I lived in Brookfield, I never once visited Village Hall. Oh, you can't hear me very well, sorry. I'm actually here on behalf of the variances that are being asked for McDonald's about the lighting ordinance. And I want to read something here to you, and then I want to make my own comment. On December 18, 2007, the village board passed an ordinance regulating outdoor lighting. The village was honored on March 26, 2008 by Governor Pat Quinn for our lighting ordinance. During the Earth Hour celebration on Saturday, 2009, Homer Glen Mayor Jim Daly presented Representative Judy Biggard with a copy of the Homer Glen lighting ordinance, encouraging her to spread it around the world. Homer Glen's efforts to bring awareness to light pollution has attracted national attention. The concept not to use light when you don't need it and shine the light you need when you do need it is an instrumental part of the ordinance. Mayor Daley noted that the night sky is a natural resource that Homer Glen is dedicated to preserving. Well, my understanding is that McDonald's is seeking to remodel its structure and therefore also asking for variances regarding its lighting. And personally, I'm very much against changing the lighting ordinance in Homer Glen. It is part of the appeal of this community. It's okay to be unique. It's okay not to be Orland Park. That's why I know I didn't want to move there, or Palos Park, or any of these other communities. This is a dark sky community, and anything that this board can do to preserve that, okay, and obviously you're looking at developing businesses and helping them along, but I don't think that you should retract or change your ordinances regarding lighting just to accommodate, okay, for any specific business. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, the next speaker would be Randy Juris.
Randy Juris, 14351 Oak Trail. The comment I would like to make has to do with the observation that at one time we had a green vision plan. It appears moving forward that a lot of the green vision plan is falling by the wayside. In particular, what you just said, there's an awful lot of people that like the idea that we are working on ordinances that are geared towards quality of life issues. I would like to say that I am not anti-business, but more pro-environment. And I would like to see more adherence to some of our ordinances. I'd also like to comment with regard to lighting. If you go down the roadway along Bell Road, between the Home Depot and Chili's, you see a section there where for some ungodly reason we have street lights that are within 10 feet of each other. I don't know how that happened, but it doesn't make any sense, and it's also you know, in my opinion, a blight on the community when you're trying to be a community and nature in harmony. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next speaker would be Dan Olson.
Yes, Mayor, if you could, we could go out of order a little bit. My name is Hal Frank. I'm after Dan. We're
Okay.
both representing McDonald's. And it's my understanding that the board would like to have, to the extent that we want to make any kind of presentation, do it at this time under public comment. Okay. Again, my name is Hal Frank. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Melcher, Fertil, and Stell, and I'm representing McDonald's this evening. With me this evening is Dan Olson from Watermark Engineering. He is the civil engineer and person in charge of lighting for the proposed remodel of the McDonald's restaurant. Also with us this evening is the architect, Dawn Conklin from Wingle Design Group is with us. Elizabeth Stark is with us as a representative of McDonald's. And most importantly, Bob Freeman, the local franchisee who has been operating a business here in town for many, many years, is with us to answer any questions that you might have about the operations, the intentions with the proposed remodel, the goal of the remodel, and everything else that you may want to ask about current and future operations. As all of you know, we did appear recently in front of the Plan Commission. There were only 4 members present that night, but we did get a unanimous recommendation of approval on the 5 elements of relief that we're requesting. There were 2 conditions that were added to the recommendation, 2 requests for site plan modifications. McDonald's has accommodated those and those 2 requests. And what we'd like to do, we appreciate the issue. One of the bigger issues of concern we do appreciate is the lighting. What we'd like to do this evening is have Dawn, the architect, Dawn Conklin, and Dan Olson walk through very quickly the remodel plan and the 2 changes that were made as a result of the input we received from the Plan Commission, and also walk through some of the specifics of the lighting that's on the restaurant right now and what is being proposed. I would like to note, as a matter, as a legal matter, as many of you know, this property is part of a property that was annexed to the village back in 2002. There was an annexation agreement executed, and this property is subject to that annexation agreement, which remains in effect. All of the existing conditions of the restaurant were established as conforming under the zoning laws. They're not legal non-conforming uses, including the lighting, including the signage. They were established in the special use for plan development ordinance that was adopted pursuant to the annexation agreement, and they were established in the annexation agreement as being deemed to be in conformance with your ordinance at that time. So what we're proposing right now is a major remodel of this restaurant. Obviously, if you've driven around the metro area, you know that this is being done on a metro-wide and nationwide basis by McDonald's. As a total rebranding. The primary focus of the remodel is a dual drive-through lane to expedite ordering and service to the customer. It has been shown and proven that it actually increases sales and obviously therefore increases sales tax to the village. McDonald's is very excited, and Mr. Freeman is very excited about undertaking this remodel. He's been working on it literally for years, and he is eager to get going on the remodel both for his own benefit and for the benefit of the village. So with that, I'd like to turn the floor over to Dawn or Dan? To Dawn. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Go right ahead, Dawn.
Good evening, everyone. My first slide here is showing an aerial view of the existing restaurant, how it is today. I'm sure everybody is quite familiar with it. My next slide is showing the existing floor plan. We're not varying from existing floor plan too much, although the exterior of the building will change greatly. The two areas that you're going to see the biggest changes inside the building, aside from new seating and decor, will be we're updating the existing restrooms to be ADA compliant. And there's going to be a small addition at the rear freezer, allowing us to enclose the main building with brick. And we'll see that in a later slide. Here's the proposed plan. You can see the new layout for the restrooms that are now ADA to the 2010 standards. And you can see the small addition at the back that will be complete brick that we'll see on the elevations. Here are the existing elevations. We have largely an EFIS building with a brick wainscot that goes around the main building. Everything currently is painted, as well as areas with the old standard, the double mansard roof. Here are some photos of the existing building where you can see that EFIS, and you can also see on the lower corner the existing exposed freezer that right now we're trying to cover up. Here are some proposed elevations. We have removed the EFIS from the main building, and we're replacing that with brick, and we are painting the existing EFIS on the plate place portion of the building to match that new brick. We have stone accents that have been upgraded to the building, as well as metal parapet band and a metal trellis going around the building that's also accented with louvers on the plate place. Here is our existing elevations with the signage. It's a little bit hard to read here, but you can see existing, there are 4 signs, as well as a couple of logos that are on the windows. Here is 2 of our proposed elevations with a breakdown of what the signage was. On the east elevation existing, there's 46 square feet, and we're proposing 46.83 square feet. The south elevation existing, there's 22 square feet of signage. We're proposing no signage on that elevation. The north elevation existing, there's 67 square feet, and we're proposing 36 square feet. So the total existing signage on the building right now is 135 square feet, and on our proposed elevations, we're only showing 82.83 square feet. So there is a reduction in the total square footage of the signage. Also, the new signage is more modern. It's lit with LEDs. It's a flat logo kind of look. It doesn't have as many lines or activities that's going on with the old signage. It got a little bit busy sometimes, especially in the play place sign. So this is a little bit more sleeker, a little bit more modern, and definitely more efficient with its LED. Here are the other 2 elevations showing the play place sign and the logo proposed over the entrance. Next, I'm going to have Dan Olson come up and talk about the site.
Dan, just give us your name and address for the record.
Sure. Good evening. My name is Dan Olson with Watermark Engineering, 2631 Ginger Woods Parkway in Aurora. And I'm going to discuss the existing and proposed site plan, as well as some of the landscaping improvements and the lighting as well. I will go through this fairly quickly, but just for reference, the existing site as it exists today is shown here, counterclockwise one-way circulation. There's a single order point for the drive-through at the rear of the building, and the parking stalls surrounding the building. The proposed site plan, this site plan here includes comments that that was the original site plan. Here's this is the latest site plan that incorporates the comments that we received at the Planning Commission hearing. And I'll take us through this site plan quickly. Hal is handing out a copy of some of the lighting information along with a copy of the color site plan as well. The site is going to remain essentially the same from a traffic standpoint, counterclockwise, one-way circulation. The access points are remaining the same in the same location on the northeast corner and then the southwest corner. The trash corral in the southwest corner is proposed to remain as it is today. The building is obviously being remodeled, and along with that, the envelope around the building is being updated, along with the overall parking lot for ADA accessibility reasons, and some convenience things that we've done to the site for pedestrians. And then obviously the big improvements would be the side-by-side drive-through that we're proposing. Hal talked a little bit about that, its efficiencies, its ability for us to generate more revenue and to allow cars to go through the drive-through with less delays. So it's an important part of the remodel for us. And the rest of the site work involves some new landscaping. The existing landscape plan is shown here. We are proposing to basically redo the entire site from a landscaping perspective. All around the building will be all new landscaping, all around the drive-through would be all new landscaping, and then the perimeter as well. This is a little tough to see, this is proposed landscape plan where all the new material will be going. I'm going to jump back to the site plan briefly and talk about one of the main changes that we were asked to make at the Plan Commission hearing was, excuse me, to add better pedestrian access for the cars parking on the east side of the parking lot. The original plan did not have the sidewalk to the north of the play place, which is the easternmost part of the building. And so one of the suggestions was that we remove one of the parking stalls out in front of the building, shift the parking to the west, and then allow that extra space that we created to for a new sidewalk. And so those changes were made to the plan. The signage, real briefly, for the site, we have it outlined 1 through 5 here. 1 being the proposed menu boards. There'd be 2 menu boards for 2 drive-through ordering stations. And that's labeled number 1 is shown there in the outline. Number 2 is the double welcome point gateway, it's called. It's a height detector and a branding element to draw cars into the drive-through, kind of identifying that there are 2 lanes. Number 3 is the customer order display. This is an LCD screen that would confirm the customer's order. It has a speaker box where you would place your order. Number 4 are the directional signs at the both driveway locations. And number 5 are some promotional type of advertising signs that the owner would like to place in the drive-through area to let customers know about some of the seasonal specials that are going on. That's number 5. I'm going to move through these quickly, and I believe we have a slide here. I'll go back. The existing photometric plan. We prepared a photometric plan of what's out there today based on the best information that we had available. McDonald's uses security lighting as their consultant to both design and provide the materials for the lighting for their sites across the nation. And so, like we always do, we reached out to them to provide a lighting plan for the site. As part of this proposal, we wanted to identify what was out there today to the best of our ability. They gave us the best information they have, and we tried to model, and we did model what is out there today, both on the building and on the site, and try and give an accurate yet conservative representation of what's out there. What I mean by conservative is that it could be a lot higher. We modeled it probably lower than what it would have been just to be on the safe side. That is in contrast to the proposed lighting plan, which is shown here. I know this slide doesn't tell a lot of the story and it's hard to see, but that's why we went ahead and prepared a chart just to compare the main differences between the existing condition and the proposed condition. We fully recognize that we were asking for a variance from the village's lighting ordinance, and we understand that that's something that's taken very seriously, and so we've done our homework to best convey what's out there and what is the darkest, if you will, site that we can put forward, but still have a site that operates correctly and will function safely. And that's our main concern. Operationally, and more than that, safety for the pedestrians, safety for the cars, safety for the crew. And so this chart is showing what the changes we are making. We feel like we're doing our best to meet the spirit of the ordinance, although we don't meet the letter of the ordinance. We have existing on the left, proposed in the middle, and then the net result, excuse me, on the right. So that is one of the handouts that you have. Hopefully, I can talk us through that quickly. I outlined 6 different items that I thought were important to discuss, and I'll go through them quickly. Number 1, maximum foot candles, excuse me, at the property line in the existing condition, 3.9. Proposed condition, 2.8. It's a reduction of 1.1 foot candle or 28%. Number 2, covers 3 different areas that we typically model: the average foot candles, the max, and the min. In the existing condition, the average is 6.5. Proposed is 2.4. And just so everyone knows, in terms of McDonald's corporate standards, a 2.4 average is well below what McDonald's puts forth in the prototypical requirements for a site. So we're making concessions on that end as well. So that's a reduction of 4.1 foot candles or 63%. Max foot candles was 20.2. We're bringing that down to 10. Excuse me, that's a 10.2 foot candle reduction or roughly 50%. Minimum was 1.6, is now 0.2. Reduction of 88% or 1.4 foot candles. Lumens per acre. This is one of the major areas that your code focuses on. It's one of the areas that we tried to make the most progress in from the existing to the proposed condition. Existing condition, building and site lighting, 737,000 roughly lumens per acre as it sits out there today. Proposed condition, excuse me, 147,628 lumens per acre. That's a reduction of 589,381 lumen per acre, or 80%. That's a huge reduction that we're proposing. I understand it doesn't meet the ordinance. It is the very most we can give up in an effort to meet the spirit of the ordinance and to still put forward a site that we feel operates safely. That's a minimum. So that's a reduction of 80%. The fixtures that are out there today are angled or tilted up fixtures. So you can see the glare from down the street. That's going away. The new fixtures are full cut off, in compliance with dark sky requirements. Full cut off fixtures, which complies with the code. So there'll be no more tilted up fixtures at the site once we're done. The original fixtures were metal halide, which are fairly energy efficient, but not anywhere compared to the LED standards of today. The new fixtures are all LED fixtures, building and site. So that's a huge increase in energy efficiency that we're putting forward. Number 6, I'll just stick to the proposed condition. Typically, we put canopies at each drive-through order station. Those canopies are lit, and in order to not have any conflicts with the code, it's an area that we can concede on, so it was an area that we took a concession on and removed those in an effort to lower our lighting levels on the site. So that's a prototypical element to our drive-through that's very important that we conceded on just to eliminate some of the lighting on the site. With that, that concludes my presentation. Thank you for letting me go along.
Thank you. Yeah, we sort of moved this from a public comment into a display or whatever, but that's fine. Because most everybody wanted to address the McDonald's issue. Let's see here, Bob Freeman, would you like to say anything?
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I've been the owner of this store for 20 years. And for the last 3 or 4 years, I've been working on this plan to try and bring a state-of-the-art store back to Homer Glen. All the pictures that you've seen this will be one of the most modern stores in the state of Illinois and probably in the country. The main concern that I have involves three things, and they're all the same. It's security, security, and security. It's for my employees and it's for the customers. Before I came over to the meeting today, I went by my store and I was looking at the lighting, and the lights that we presently have probably don't even meet McDonald's standards, the ones I have, because we've upgraded so much over the last 20 years. We have a gas station next to us, a Shell station. I think they have 26 lights on their canopy, and it lights up the whole area. And I understand that you guys aren't happy about that, but what it does for my store, it helps increase the security. Going forward, that Shell station is going to be gone. So the lighting is going to be diminished dramatically. The plans for Bell Road are to take all of my parking in front of the store and my road sign, plus change our entrance and exits. And the Shell station will be gone. So it's something that's really a concern for me. We have a playland in that store, and we have a lot of children. I have over 1,400 customers a day that come to my store. And to not have lighting that I feel is secure is really something that I would lose sleep over at the end of the day. We want to be a good neighbor, and we've tried to be a good neighbor all these years, and we're going to continue to be a good neighbor. But as I say, the most important thing to me right now at this time is security, security, and security. We have a great police force here. And there have been times over the years where we have had to call them, and they've responded very quickly. But I also have to tell you that, like every business, when I go home at the end of the day, the one thing that bothers me is whether or not we're going to have someone come into my store or cause problems on the parking lot and put my people in jeopardy. That's the thing I'm most concerned about. I am so pleased to bring this plan to you. This plan has been in the works, as I said, for a long time. And I'm embarrassed right now with the way my store looks, because we have been holding off for the last couple of years trying to figure out exactly what we wanted to do in Homer Glen. My decision was to stay where we are versus moving to another community. That was my decision. But in order to do that, I have to have lighting that we can compromise on that works for us also. And I want to thank you for having me here.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, how about Anthony Cook?
Anthony Cook, 17421 Crystal Lake Drive, Homer Glen. I do appreciate McDonald's doing their presentation here. It changed my opinion a little bit, but my main concern is that if you do go ahead and you do approve this variance, what happens when the next business comes and requests another variance, and another variance, and another variance? Sure, this one case, it's not going to affect my my sightline or the nightline sky here. And you know, McDonald's has done their homework. They've tried to accommodate our ordinance. But the problem is, once we do this, it's going to open up that door. We're not going to be able to close that door. No other businesses will ask for variances as well. And this is going to be a slippery slope. And that is my main concern now. I don't know if there's much we can do about it, but I know that once this variance is approved, if it is in fact approved, other businesses are going to know about it, and because it was approved, they're going to feel that they can come here and they can do the same thing. And collectively, it will eventually threaten our status as a Sky community. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe, John, you wanted to say something, John Coy?
Yeah, I just have a comment.
Why don't you go up to the microphone? Name and address for the record.
Who's running the screen? Can you turn the screen on and give me the site plan a minute? John Coy, 13056 Venetian Way, Orland Park.
All right, I was at McDonald's Sunday morning, approximately 8:30 or 9 o'clock. Back it up one. Wish I had something to point at. All right. Put the site plan. It's a couple before this one. All right. This is the playland. I walked in here. I had an order. And there was a whole bunch of kids here, which it's supposed to be for. They bring in a semi-truck, which parked from here to here. It was a 30-foot truck, tractor, and trailer. All of a sudden, these kids come flying out of the playland, and the two mothers that were with them, there was 6 of them, were standing there talking. The children then ran out here because the parking is on the angle. Ran behind here, a car was waiting to go around the truck, another one come and almost hit the kids. And this is at 9:30 in the morning. Now, there's no reason that there should be a tractor trailer in that parking lot at 9:30 on a Sunday morning, unloading. If it is, there should be
John,
somebody there as a guide,
You're addressing
because the
board.
car came around, another car, and darn near hit 2 of them kids. Now, that would have been a catastrophe. I'm just stating that when you get deliveries at 9:30 on a Sunday morning, and turkeys being let out, there's gonna be a lot of kids in there. And
Okay,
there's gonna be some problems. So let's stop it so it doesn't happen down the road. Thank you.
thank you. All right, that concludes public comment unless anybody from McDonald's would like to say something to wrap it up. Go right ahead.
Yes, Mayor, if I could, I appreciate the opportunity. I would like to respond to the last comment of the public about the danger of setting a precedent here. And I appreciate that concern. It does frequently come up when parties are requesting a variance. But I would like to note again that every case is, of course, distinguishable, and not every grant of any kind of approval necessarily creates a precedent for the next piece of property. Every piece of property, every business is unique. I do think the village has the ability, because as I indicated in my opening remarks, this property is governed by an existing special use ordinance, and it's governed by an existing annexation agreement. And actually, under the terms of that annexation agreement, McDonald's could redevelop their site under the codes of Will County if they were less restrictive. They're not asking to do that, they're not proposing to do that, and as Dan showed you, they're actually making tremendous reductions in lighting for this property. That fact, the fact that they're substantially reducing existing conditions which were approved 10 years ago, 11 years ago by the annexation agreement, which still has another 10 years on, or 9 years on it to run on its term. I think that factor and provisions of that agreement distinguish it and would give the board the ability to distinguish it from somebody else who comes in and says, well, you granted those variations for McDonald's, shouldn't you also grant them for us? I think there is a foundation for the board to make a distinction. Thank you.
Thank you, Al, and I agree with you. I've been aware of that, and I'm also aware that it's a challenging project because it's been there 20 years. You have to properly light it. You're working with a defined area. It isn't a new project where you can add this amount of square footage or add that amount of square footage. So it is a particular situation that I believe warrants the variances. So with that being said, public comment is closed. The next portion of this meeting would be legislation and action items. This would be number 1. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 14-013, an ordinance approving a final plat of subdivision, Homer Town Squares re-subdivision number 1? First by trustee Kajanis.
Second.
Second by trustee DeVito. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Trustee Sable, go ahead.
I would like to say here that when we talk about number 1, our final plat of subdivision, that I really don't know what the final plat will be because we haven't discussed it yet. We haven't gone through 1, 2, and 3. So approving this, I don't know how that would affect it. So that's one of my questions. The second question pertains to number one and number two. And number three, a special use permit, we know there's going to be a drive but also in I-2, there are some bulk requirements, there are exceptions to the sign ordinance that are not listed here, so I don't know if all of that has to be listed here when we're voting. And then it goes into hours. And then number 5, variances of the outdoor light unit. So if the variances are listed here, why aren't the exceptions listed here? It's a matter of how this is worded. So I feel that the bulk requirements are left out, and so is the exceptions for the signs. So I'd like, in this discussion, I'd like those questions to be answered. It seems like this is full of everything before we actually get down to the discussion.
I think they pretty much stated what they're trying to do on this property.
Well, they didn't state the exceptions to the sign ordinance, they didn't state the exceptions to the bulk ordinance. It's how it's written, and I'm questioning.
It's actually in the ordinance.
I'll let the attorney respond to this.
Yes, I would appreciate that.
I don't write the ordinances, so.
You just inspired us to do it.
That's right.
It's the, all of the exceptions appear to be in section 3 of the ordinance approving the special use permit. The site construction requirements, the off-street parking, exterior construction, the signage, the ground-mounted signage, special use for the drive-through, the special use for the hours of operation. Mayor, and everything is addressed in the ordinance, and then there was the agenda supplement sheet addressed all of, describes everything that's addressed in the ordinance, in the special use ordinance.
Okay, I just wondered why the lighting wasn't put in here and not the other
It's
exception.
in a different, the lighting appears to be in the variance ordinance.
It's a separate ordinance.
It's a separate ordinance.
It's a separate ordinance with a separate ordinance, and why is it mentioned here?
Well, the way it's mentioned there, I'm just saying that there you have 3 ordinances before you tonight, as I understand it. One is approving the final plat of subdivision. The second one is granting the special use permit, and it has all of the conditions and limitations that you discussed. And the third is the ordinance granting the variance on the lighting requirement.
So
And
what
I suspect that the reason that there's a variance ordinance for the lighting, as opposed, and it's not included in the special use ordinance, is that they require different standards.
So this is just in this yellow, that's what I'm really looking at. It's, so it's just the plan commission's motion is just being carried on page after page through I-1, I-2, and I-3.
Right, it applies to all the items.
One at a time.
I'm sorry, it applies to all the items, but you deal with them individually and separately.
Okay, so if there's any disagreement with anything here in the final plat could be changed, could be adjusted. We're talking about the eventual final plat that's going to be voted on. Is that correct? I'm talking about a final plat that we see here.
This ordinance approves the final plat that's referenced in the ordinance. This is the final plat of subdivision dated December 18, 2013. The last revisions being January 30, 2014, a copy of which is attached to Exhibit A. And that was the exhibit that was part of the PowerPoint presentation right here.
Okay, so if anyone disagrees with any part of this, they shouldn't vote yes then. Is that clear?
Approving what not approving a plat of subdivision, a re-subdivision? Right. Okay, but I suppose if you don't agree with it, then you should vote no, that's correct.
Okay, so if somebody disagrees with some part of what is presented in this ordinance, and you're talking about the ordinance that is attached to I-1?
We're talking about ordinance 14-013, which approves the final plat of subdivision.
Okay.
Right, and that's the ordinance that's before you now, right?
That's the one that is the
Right,
first and
that's
second on.
the motion and the second, and that's what the discussion is on that ordinance, not the others.
Perfect. So, when we get to I2, there could be some deviation,
Sure.
and I3, there could be some deviation.
I think it's
So I'm just
surprising.
trying to make that clear.
Okay. All right, is there any further discussion?
Well, I do have a question too.
Go ahead, George.
What confuses me here is pretty much like Margaret said. You're making every one of them pretty much the same, so if you vote on one, you're already agreeing it. If this is for a plat, and we still have a lighting ordinance that we have to go over, and the same thing with the building for the signage, and the same thing with the building for the play area being painted instead of brick, then why do we have three of them? Why don't we just have the one, and then, because this pretty much says it all.
It individually separates them out.
Well, but if I'm agreeing to one, I1,
Mhm.
I'm agreeing to final plat of subdivision, special use permit, special use permit for the drive-through, special use permit for the outside of normal business hours.
No, we're three separate ordinances.
There's three separate ordinances. You're voting on the subdivision ordinance, then you're voting on the ordinance approving or granting special use permit to final plan unit development, and then there's the third ordinance for the variance. The lighting variance.
So the lighting variance, we still can address,
Yes,
if they want to address the signs, they can address the signs, and they can address the,
right.
all right.
So that would change the final plat, is that correct?
No. No, the plants, all they're doing, the plant, and Mr. Frank jump in if I'm stating this incorrectly, but all they're doing is carving out the portion of the property that the McDonald's store is on from the rest of the subdivision property. See, it says Home Division Square re-subdivision number 1. So this property was part of a larger tract of property, and now it's gonna stand on its own. It's just gonna be lot 1 in the Homer Town Square re-subdivision. Is that correct?
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, it
So
went
it's
from
all-
land lease to ownership. It's
Yeah.
going from land lease to ownership under plat.
Right, because he's buying the property, correct?
I'm sorry?
Is he buying this property?
Right, the property right now is subject to a ground lease, and
Right.
pursuant to the ground lease, it's being bought, so it has to create its own lot of record.
Right.
This is just creating a separate lot of record.
So originally, this parcel was part of the entire subdivision, the entire shopping center, which was probably described by what's called meets and bounds. And because he leased it, it didn't make any difference. Now the operator is buying this portion of the property from the owner of the shopping center. In order to do that, you have to subdivide this out. The Plat Act requires that this have its own little lot number. So if you'll see right here in the smack dab in the middle, it says lot, it says 1. So this is lot 1 in this re-subdivision, and he has to get the property subdivided so that he can buy this piece of property from the owners.
So,
That's a requirement of the Plat Act, which is in the Illinois Compliance State.
so just to clarify, we are only voting on this map, this plat. We are not voting on the details pertaining
Correct.
to site, the bulk.
He has nothing to do with that, any of that.
Right, well, that makes it clear.
Okay. Are you clear now?
Yep.
Okay. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo? Aye. Trustee Giordano?
Aye.
Trustee Sabo?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. This would be 2. Is there a motion to approve ordinance 14-014, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of special use to permit a final plan unit development, a special use to permit a drive-through associated with a permitted use, and a special use to permit hours of operation outside the normal operating hours for the property commonly known as 14298 South Bell Road, Homer Glen, Illinois, McDonald's Corp. In its nominee franchise realty investment trust, conditioned upon the submittal, review, and approval of final engineering plans by village staff.
So moved.
First by trustee Kay Janice,
Second.
second by trustee DeVivo. Is there any discussion?
Okay,
Yes, I have a question.
Okay, trustee Sweet, go ahead.
Okay, in your motion to consider this, there's sign exceptions here too. They're asking for variances on that wasn't addressed?
No. It was addressed at the plan commission. If you look at the bottom of page 5 of this ordinance.
Yep.
Ground mounted signage. And these are the exceptions that if you adopt the ordinance, would be approved. And it's increasing the minimum size of the menu board signage from 25 square feet, 31 square feet for the use of 2 menu board signs. And then the use of the following ground mounted signs, and then it just describes them. Welcome point gateway, LCD customary order display, directional display, temporary advertising signs. And
Okay,
then the
then-
number of each.
But it says here, ground mounted signage will require exceptions.
I'm sorry, what are you reading from?
Page 5 and
5.
Yeah, an increase in the minimum size of the menu board from blank to blank. Yes, you were granting that. If you pass the ordinance.
Did you hear that, trustee Sweet? If
Okay.
you pass that ordinance, you are permitting that.
Permitting.
That's stated.
These are all the exceptions that the community development would allow from the ordinance.
Okay, so on page 5, this is what is being said. Page 6, excuse me, there will be an exception to the sign ordinance. And there's also an exception on page 5.
What section
to
are you
ground
reading,
mounted.
what section are you reading from?
Well, page 5, signage, there will be an exception to the signage.
Right, and it describes what the exception is.
Right, and then there will be an exception to the wall signs.
Right.
And it says the village sign ordinance allows for 1 wall sign per building elevation. The petitioner is proposing 3 wall signs on both the east and north elevations. This would require an
Yeah,
exception.
that's highlighted in everybody's package.
That's right, well, I wanted to say it.
All right,
But you're reading from the, you're not reading from the ordinance, you're reading from the memo, right?
I'm reading from the memo. I'm reading from the way it's described to us in yellow.
Mhm.
Now, let's understand that on
Go
the
ahead,
sign.
trustee K.
Yes,
James.
thank you. Let's also understand on the signage, there is actually 4 sides to this building to where all 4 sides could actually have a degree of signage on it according to our secondary sign ordinance as well. So let's also keep that in mind.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on 2? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee DeVivo? Aye. Trustee Kajana?
Aye.
Trustee Sabo?
No?
Trustee Suisse?
No.
Trustee Yukich?
yes.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
I'll also vote yes. Okay, we're on I3. I3, I should say. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 14-015? An ordinance granting 3 variances from the outdoor lighting ordinance for the property commonly known as 14298 South Bell Road, Homer Glen, Illinois, McDonald's Corporation and its nominee franchise Realty Investment Trust.
So moved.
First by trustee K. Janice,
Second.
second by trustee DeVivo. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
There's discussion.
Go right ahead, trustee Sabo.
And I'm passing down something, and what this says is that at the top, you all will pass it, it should go all the way to Joe. That McDonald's can meet Homer Glen's lighting ordinance. The following information proves that McDonald does bend, proves that they do bend their demands to make local lighting regulations work. And first of all, I want to talk about McDonald's at 179th and Wolf. The gross acreage is 1.5, their net acreage is 1 acre. Maximum light budget, they measure in foot candles. Orland Park uses foot candles instead of lumens. McDonald used 6.8 foot candles out of 15. This is 45% of their budget. Light trespass for commercial next to commercial is 3.0. Number of parking lot lights is 10. Number of radio wall sconces is 8. Accessory decorative lighting is used, that's not used for security. Homer Glen proposal. The total acreage is 0.943, just shy of an acre. Maximum light budget is 100 lumens per acre. McDonald's proposes per acre 147,628.6. Number of parking lot lights proposed is 15, where Orleans is 10. Number of wall sconces is 13, where wall sconces in Orland is 8. Accessory lighting is not security lighting, but it amounts to 6,373 lumens. And the color correlated temperature, Orland doesn't care about, is 5,000 and 5,200. Homer Glen's lighting ordinance is 3,300 or less. Now, if McDonald's, this is how McDonald's can meet the per acre lighting ordinance. If it matched what happens on 179th Street near Wolf Road, the building stands alone, there's nothing really around it, there's nothing really adjacent to it. Reduced it to 10 parking lot lights, just like it has in Orland. 8 wall sconces, the same in Orland. It keeps all its accessory decorative lighting it's proposed. The total lumens for 0.943 of an acre equals 99,863. Now, that's under 100,000. If it's safe in Orland, why isn't it safe in Homer Glen? And then McDonald's built in another town in 2013. Flagstaff complied with 50,000 lumens per acre. The site was 1.49 acres and McDonald's used 73,450 lumens. It is across the road from the University of Flagstaff in a highly traveled pedestrian area. They use the same radio wall sconces, but at 50-watt high-pressure sodium. They had 10 parking lot lights, the same as Orland Park, and their color correlated temperature, which is the color of the bulb, was 1,800 Kelvin. We require 3,300 or less. I think that Orland can do this. I think that Orland, excuse me, I think you can do this if you did it in Orland, and if you did it in Flagstaff. I think you can do it in Homer Glen. And we've just had a reduction in our crime rate. So safety is an issue for me. Safety is an issue for everyone. But overlighting is not necessarily better lighting.
Thank you. One statement here to get everything straight up on the table. They are part of an annexation agreement that we did with that shopping center that excludes them to have to do what you're asking for.
Yeah.
Now, if the applicant would like to address that, that's fine, but they, if you want McDonald's in town, they are making a substantial investment in this town. They made a substantial investment when the Dominic Center annexed into the Village of Homer Glen, and this is what they're telling you they'd like to do. And I don't see any reason, I don't see any problem with it.
Okay, well,
Trustee,
I haven't finished to
Trustee
address
KJS.
what I had to
I
say.
think,
Trustee
All right.
KJ,
I'd like to
we'll get back to you.
Yes. First of all, I'd like to state that you named a few stores. In Flagstaff, there's, if I'm not mistaken, there are totally 6 stores. Flagstaff and the surrounding areas, and I do have pictures of Flagstaff at night. Yes, it does look like Las Vegas at night, the downtown in Flagstaff. If anyone would like to see them, I got the pictures here. So you're talking about one store. Out of 60 years approximately, McDonald's has been the foremost builder of restaurants and operator of restaurants throughout the world with over 34,000 stores. I think they know what they need to do. I don't think we need to sit here and micromanage a company like McDonald's. I don't think we also need to micromanage an outstanding operator that we have in this community and say, well, comply to us or you can leave. He's been outstanding in this community for 20 plus years. He wants to upgrade and make a significant investment into this community. If he keeps the current lights in the current building, it's nowhere close to what this International Dark Sky Society is about. But let me go back to that. There's only 4 in the world for, what, almost 2 decades? 4 in the world, one Sark Island. No cars on the islands, 600 people. It's where the rich go to play. It's where Prince Charles goes and says it's a throwback in time. To me, that sounds like Jack the Ripper days, no streetlights. The other is Borrego Springs, California, where the desert meets the sky, RV capital, and it's unincorporated desert, surrounded by over 600,000 acres of national government forest land. The other is, the 4th one is Flagstaff, Arizona, which we know is naval, mostly for observation of satellites for our protection and our security. And then there's Homer Glen. I don't know if there's any special operations going on in Homer Glen that we need satellites straight up in the air for our domestic security. If there is, I haven't heard of any secrets out there.
I'll tell
But
you
the spirit of the International Dark Sky is 100% full cutoff, pointing straight down. That's the spirit of the International Dark Sky. So they're not tilted and you're spraying lights to other parking lots. The spirit is 100% cutoff, pointing straight down. You have an operator that's concerned with security in his parking lot and the safety of the people, our community members. And unless we give him the opportunity that we're going to indemnify him, then we can talk security. I don't think I'm going to go against security lighting company that does it nationally, against the recommendations. Also, we become micromanagers. We have to understand, this International Dark Sky is like a cafeteria, buffet at the Empress Casino. You don't have to eat everything at the buffet. You pick and choose what you want. It's the spirit of it.
And you don't pick and
Okay.
choose ordinances,
Go-
you don't pick and
Go
choose,
ahead, Trustee Sabo.
you don't pick and choose which ordinances apply to certain companies. You
He's
don't,
asking for a variance.
you don't pick and choose what parts of them that you want to use. The IDA, yes, that's downward shielding, there's a lot more, but there's a lot that other towns are doing that are maybe IDA dark sky, and it's more than what IDA has done. There's communities that are very concerned about the color, the Kelvin, that's very important because it produces glare. There's a lot of that in this lighting ordinance. And then I also want to say that our ordinance was not to make the sky dark. That would be a very impossible thing to do. What it is for is to have energy saving, to be smart about the use, and to reduce the cost. And to be a good example for other communities in the United States. There are actually 5. And there are more standing in line waiting to be a dark sky community. The reason that, what makes us unique is that we are surrounded by other towns. And some of those waiting in line have seen that Homer Glen got it because they were not surrounded by darkness. They're trying to save energy. And the comparison, and I appreciate this chart, and I appreciate some of the things that McDonald's is doing. But when they are comparing an old world waste station of, this is the way the world was. We can use as much light as we want because all we have to do is turn on a switch and we can be creative about the kind of lighting that we use. 737,009 lumens was something that no one even thought about. I appreciate that they're reducing it by 589,000 something, but it still doesn't comply with the ordinance, and you can comply with the ordinance, and you can reduce your Kelvin. And if it's okay in Orland Park, and they didn't even use all of their requirements in their budget, and they considered that safe, and McDonald's didn't even ask for more lighting.
Do you know how many times I hear we don't want to look like Orland Park? We have a gentleman in our.
I don't want to
midst
be
here with
interrupted.
20
I have the
Well, wrap it
floor.
up, let's go, we've heard it all.
No, you know what,
You
why
gotta-
don't you, excuse me,
She's got the right to talk.
excuse me, but I don't see you interrupting some other trustees
Let's
like you
wrap it up,
interrupt me.
Roger.
No,
Tell us
I
what
would
you want to
appre-
say,
You know
let's
what,
move
I
on.
would appreciate you respecting all trustees.
I do respect all trustees.
You don't show it.
I do too.
Well,
Just let's say
by
what you wanna say, let's
interrupting
move
them,
on.
you are not showing it.
Say
And,
what you wanna
you know
say,
what,
let's
there's
move on.
nobody here more equal than anybody else.
Now.
And so I'm saying Orland Park again, if they can say that Orland Park is safe and they didn't ask for more lighting, then that's the measurement here that should be used.
Are you complete?
Mr. Mayor?
Hold on here a second, I want to make sure she's done. Hold on,
on.
1 second. Are you complete, are you finished, Margaret?
I'll have more to say later when we get to another little topic.
Okay, trustee Janice?
I've got a lot more to say, I'm sure, too. First of all, fact-based. Let's be fact-based and pragmatic here. I have reports from CAP officers and POP officers and that report, and also Crime Stoppers, to my understanding, do national reports to Justice Department. A parking lot is best described by design and how well it is used. The crime rate of the parking lot can be affected positively or negatively by design. Large. And it goes on to talk, I won't take up the whole paragraph. It talks about lighting at nighttime, about seeing and identifying a person 100 feet away. Understand that Crime Stoppers and CAP officers and POP officers on the national level go on to say similar things. Now, I don't think they're blowing smoke because they want to. I don't think McDonald's, and I don't think Bob, and the 34,000 McDonald's restaurants that are built want to use more energy or electricity than they need to. You know, they're cost conscious. Any business worth its weight today is cost conscious. So I don't think they are willing to go out and spend extra money on electricity if it wasn't necessary or needed. There's a lot better ways to spend extra money if you didn't have to. So that's point number one. Point number two is on this lighting and security. The Treasury Department also makes a similar statement for banks regarding the candling and the distance, the site distance. And that is a standard set by the Treasury Department for all banks. It's a standard. It's not negotiable. So when you're talking about it, the Treasury Department is saying this for banks, Crime Stoppers is saying this for businesses, for parking lots. I think it warrants and merits a look at, whatever you think. And then you go on to, is there a possibility of litigation and liability for inadequate parking lot lighting? Well, there's story after story after story about owners of property losing in litigation because of lack of adequate parking lot lighting. And the courts will deem it if it's foreseeable. Well, right now, I think our board and in public, we're saying it's foreseeable. It's a foreseeable situation. Whatever you say about Kelvin's, it's like putting a dimmer switch on.
Okay, are you complete there, Ted?
At this point in time, then we can go into another topic if you so desire.
Okay, is there any more discussion on this? Trustee Yukich.
I'll make mine pretty quick. First, let me say I'm happy that McDonald's is successful in Homer Glen and is willing to make this investment in our community. Overall, I think the plans are good. I'm concerned about the lighting variance, so much from what we have asked other businesses to do that are also in the same position you are in with the annexation agreement. I want everyone to remember that the lighting ordinance was unanimously approved because it offers benefits to the residents, businesses, and the community. And don't forget, we celebrated the lighting ordinance at your store, with the mayor proclaiming its benefits and McDonald's just a few years ago. So we will look better if we can work together on the lighting issue. That said, I plan to approve these plans if it comes to the point of where you're not going to back off just because you can do what you want to do. You have the annexation, and that's perfectly all right. Mr. Mayor, I wish that the terms of the annexation agreement had been shared with us before we did get to this meeting, though. Because that's nowhere in the packet, we could have saved a lot of time just with knowing that.
Sorry about that, that's existed since we incorporated. It takes into consideration all the properties within the former dominant shopping center.
Okay, but you know, the one thing that I do have to say with what Trustee Sable's talking about right now is this lighting ordinance was started in 2007, 2008 by you, Mr. Mayor. All three boards since then, for all the changes, have agreed, including you, Ted, that we agreed with the lighting ordinance. I'm not saying it doesn't need to be tweaked, and I know that you are working on it. But what kind of surprises me is if you were going to make an ordinance and you're not going to try to follow it, then why did you make the ordinance? I don't know. No, let me just finish. Everyone has their opportunity. I would like to ask you just to consider voluntarily. I've driven by some of your McDonald's. I've driven by them. They're not that bright, but they still are lit up. I'm not asking you to come down 100,000. I'm asking you to work with us and bring it down a little bit. With what your lawyer had said, you know, you can tell the people that are around here that we have an annexation agreement that lets you pretty much do whatever you want to do. Well, I would think you would want to do what the community's asking. There's not a lot of community that's barking about the lighting ordinance. Some of it, do I think it's too restrictive? Yes, I do. But they're in a process right now of trying to redo it. They're tweaking it right now. What I would like to do is put this off until that ordinance is set. And Mayor, I'd like to see it done by the next meeting, because there's no sense in stretching this thing out. We want you guys to get going. We want you to have what you want to have. But I also want you to consider what the residents here want. Those are the people that are going to be, you know, going to your business.
I follow what you're saying, George. I go back to one of the big issues is that they are entitled to do it, whether we like it or we don't. They have reduced these levels that they're at, as you can see on the chart, substantially from what, if they didn't even put a nickel into the store. Trustee Costa?
Just a couple comments, Mayor, thank you. One or two of them are going to be for our legal counsel. We did hear about the annexation agreement, and you know, as I'm reading all of the information before the meeting and then as the annexation agreement came up, one question pops in my head. If there's an annexation agreement there, and any business that falls within that annexation agreement does not have to follow the ordinances of Homer Glen, why are they seeking a variance? That's my first question for legal counsel. Second question is, if this board says no to the variance, it doesn't stop them from doing it because they're not bound by our ordinances. Am I right? I'm sorry, that's a question. Are they bound by the ordinance or not?
Did you want a yes or a no, or?
Well, like, hopefully we're going to a little bit more than yes or no, but
Okay,
yeah.
well, I haven't read the annexation agreement, so I can't comment on it fully. But as you and I discussed before the board meeting, an annexation agreement is it's a contract, and it's a contract between the municipality and the property owners. So if the ordinance says that they have the right to do this, to do whatever the lighting is that they want, and that's what's in the annexation agreement, then as a general proposition, and again, without having the opportunity to read the annexation agreement, then they would have the right to do it. So I would suggest that what you do is you ask the lawyer who's antsy to get up at the podium to explain that.
Go right ahead.
Yes, thank you for giving me the opportunity to respond. First of all, I appreciate all your comments. I appreciate Trustee Sable, your fervor for Dark Sky Society and the ordinance itself. I do appreciate that. I appreciate the question, Trustee Yukich, if you have an ordinance, then you know why aren't we going to? Why doesn't everybody just live with the ordinance? If we're going to grant variations, why do we have the ordinance? I would turn that question around to you and say, why does your ordinance allow for variations if there isn't an understanding that in certain circumstances, variations will be granted? In terms of the annexation agreement, Trustee, you know what, and I would like to point out this sort of response again to Trustee, your question about being a good neighbor. The very reason that we're here asking for that Bob is here asking for a variation is exactly what you said. The language in the annexation agreement, it's one sentence that I think is relevant, that if I could just read it to you. It says, notwithstanding the foregoing, sounds like a lawyer should talk. Notwithstanding the foregoing and except as hereinafter provided, in the event the village adopts building and/or land development codes, ordinances, or regulations which are substantially different and more restrictive than the development codes then in effect for Will County, then during the term of this agreement, the owner shall have the right to elect to have the development codes then in effect for Will County apply to the subject property. And then, of course, there's standard boilerplate language that says this runs with the land and it inures to the benefit of, you know, owners, operators, other people. So, and the term again, by the way, as I mentioned before, goes till September of 2022 for 8.5 more years. So I think in fairness, you know, Trustee Sable, if you're going to talk about Orland, you're going to talk about 179th and Wolf, you're going to talk about Flagstaff. I think that we should, and I don't know the answer to this, but I think we should also look at, well, what could McDonald's do on this site right now under Will County codes? That's number one. Number two, the way the agreement's written right now, they could leave the lighting as it is. But why are they reducing it substantially, as you saw in the chart? You may say it's old world, it goes back to another time. But the fact is, it is what it is, and they are, because they are trying to be good neighbors, work with the ordinance, come in, substantially reduce what's there right now, and ask for the variance. So I think they are, Bob is trying to be a good neighbor.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like
Are there,
I
just you,
still
go
have
ahead.
a little bit more. And Bob, I understand that. We sat down and talked. I do understand completely where you're coming from. All I'm trying to say is just because you can do it, doesn't mean you have to. I can jump off a bridge, doesn't mean I'm going to. So all I'm trying to do is just, and I understand the good neighbor end of it. But there was an article written a few years ago, and I'll read just a little bit of it. McDonald's USA was named the Energy Star Partner of the Year, March 2007, by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency for energy awareness programs and improvements in energy efficiency in McDonald's restaurants. McDonald's efforts in energy and environmental conservation are a large focus from recycling packaging and the introduction of reflective white roofs to new lighting HVAC system technology. I'm sorry for screwing up with it. I can't see anymore. I had 3 questions. One, to Trustee Kajanius. Community Bank, which is right across the street, fell below the limit that they needed for lighting under the ordinance. And they could have gone with more lighting too. You were saying before, is that why would this be the most modern building right now?
I'm sorry, could you please repeat?
You had mentioned before that this would be the most modern building that's out there right now.
We are
What makes a difference?
We are in the process right now of doing MRPs, they're called. This is where we take an existing store that's over a certain age and we completely remodel it. Not just on the outside, but also on the inside. This is, for stores that are under 20 years old, this is the recommended policy. It's kind of fluid because you could build a new store also possibly. McDonald's would not allow me to do that because it's under 20 years. You know, I appreciate the passion of everyone. I have to address one thing though, and I'm not a lighting expert. Let me say that. Lumen, I follow my leadership here. That's why they get paid. My 179th Street store is, I'm sure that, I think you said that the acreage was similar. The difference is of where the store is situated. The 179th Street store, my drive-through is right up to the edge of the property, basically. We do not have the same type of design that we have here. I don't hit, it's because of the store not being situated in the middle, that makes a difference as far as how many lights, you know, I believe that we have to have. That's one, and I'm a novice, and believe me, I'm giving you my, I might be a little bit wrong on this, but that's my take on that one. That it's just not situated in the same position as this store is. Someone brought up that, and it might have been us, that I could leave my lights as they are and not take down my lights in the parking lot. And I could do that and leave them just like they are, and then there would be no question, I don't think, here. But in my effort to make us more cost effective, to lower energy costs, that was my decision to do that. That was my decision, to replace all those lights. And if you're gonna take a building like this, why would I wanna take a building and only do it 75%? You know, to bring it up. I can't do that. If that's what we're talking about, I won't do that. You know, I just can't do it. For the amount of money that I'm gonna put into this building, I want it to be something that we're all proud of. And believe me, Mrs. Abel, I get what you're saying. We had you and I had a talk, and I get what you're saying. And I think you also understood, though, that this site has so many obstacles besides the lighting. And I think you recognized that at the time. You said, in fact, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think you told me this could be a hardship case. I hope I'm not misquoting you, but I think you did say that.
I know.
You know, and the thing is that I cannot build this store here and keep it here unless we do the whole project. And just like you know, I don't know what type of businesses you have. If you're gonna do something, do it right. And that's all I wanna do is do it right. That's my only goal in this whole thing, is to do it right. And do it so when you go to the people of this community, that they say, well, we're proud of that store. I'm not proud of the store right now, because it needs to be redone. But at the same time, no one's gonna indemnify me if I have accidents in my parking lot. Of people getting hurt or tripping. You know, that's my responsibility as the owner. But I want to do this project right, and to do it right, this is what I need.
Thank you. Thank you. Trustee Sable has a question.
Yes, I would like to address the owner. I did say you had a hardship. I think you have a hardship, but you don't have an acre. And you weren't able to add some land to it. That was a complication. And please understand, I'd love to go to your store after this meeting, and I love that you are increasing the hours. But what is going to happen at this corner is very beneficial to you, because that station that you said was right is going to go away. Now, you thought that was beneficial, or not beneficial, but the corner now is going to be closer to your building, to your property. The county is going to be putting in more lights at the corners, so there'll be more light there. Plus, the illumination from the traffic signals, red, white, and green signals, are going to also illuminate. If you look at on 59th Street, we don't have any lights except 2 lights on pole, one at Parker and one at Bell Road, and the rest is illuminated by the traffic signals themselves. And
Can I answer that? So, yeah.
Pardon me?
May I answer you?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, the Shell station, as I said earlier, it throws off a lot of light on my property. Just taking the Shell station away is going to put me at a disadvantage with my competitors. I have a Dunkin' Donuts across the street. I have a White Castle. I've got competitors that are well lit. And in my type of business, when a customer comes in my store, a lot of the time it's they're going by the store, and whoever they see, that's who they go to. It's a last-minute decision. So I'm being put at a disadvantage, even with the lights I'm getting right now, I'm not able to compete with my competition on that. The other thing is, if we have to change these lights, which I don't believe that we can, it's gonna make it so I can't be open 24 hours for the safety of my employees. I just won't be able to do it. If I can't be open 24 hours during the summer months, that weighs into my decision overall, whether or not I need to stay at that site. Everything impacts everything. As far as the lighting on the corner, I can't answer your question, I'm not an expert on that. But I can't see where a red, green, yellow light on the corner is gonna help me that much. And when this project is done, because they're taking my land in the front of the store on Bell Road, they're taking everything I have up there. And they're taking my arches. I have a large sign there that's gone, and I believe we're gonna have to go to a monument sign. Right there is devastating for me. But you don't hear me coming to you and saying, well, and I don't think I could anyway, saying, well, hey, can I have my arches? I'm not doing that because I get it. But no matter, I appreciate what you're saying, my visibility is going to be dramatically hurt. And that's my lifeblood, is my visibility.
Thank you.
I would like to address what the owner has said, and that is that you say you will be at a disadvantage, okay? Because your competitors, across the street. What will happen if the lighting is granted, because there's a lot of glare that illuminates from the Kelvin. The Kelvin is really too high. I would hope that you would get down to 3,300. You can. That would not produce the glare. Glare is dangerous, glare is blinding, there's traffic, blinds drivers. It would be extreme. But the competition across the street is then going to have to compete with you. And then the competition wants, they have to dip into their pocketbook because then they want to be brighter than they are today. So, then we create a hardship for others, and then this escalates. So what I'm asking, I understand your problems, but what I'm asking is if you would reduce your Kelvin to 3,300, and it is possible, we check the lighting because we know that another town has gone down to 1,800 Kelvin. And if you have a hardship, we could say, the variance could be that we look at you as an acre. And then we can give you a 5% variance. Now that would bring you to 105 lumens. Now, if we could compromise, and I heard the word compromise before from one of your representatives, if we could compromise and reduce the Kelvin to 3,300, and that we could reduce some of the lighting, now that's lighting that is not security lighting, that's your decorative lighting. We could reduce that somewhat, and perhaps not use the number of lights that you are saying in your parking lot. We could compromise. I think that the residents would be happy to know that. And although I wasn't going to do this because I didn't find this, but your corporate headquarters on their website says environmental responsibility, doing less with more. And one of them is energy conservation, find further ways to increase energy efficiency in our restaurants in order to save money and reduce our environmental impacts. A green restaurant design. And that means the outside, and we continue to engage with experts and NGOs like World Wildlife Fund, Conservation International, and Environmental Defense Fund, and U.S. Green Building. I am appealing to you on that part.
I have to tell you, and with all due respect again, I'm starting to feel a little bit insulted up here.
Yeah.
Because
You know what, we need to, everybody has an opinion, and we've heard everybody's opinion 10 times over. How about we just bring this to a vote? We have a first and a second. Madam Clerk, okay, go ahead, Trustee.
I just had a quick question for Mr. Olson. On your chart where you said existing at 737,000 lumens, Did you include your interior lighting on that?
No, all these factors are
That's
just,
all just outside lighting?
that's correct.
All right, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee K. Janice?
Aye.
Trustee Sabo?
No.
Trustee Sweet?
No.
Trustee Yukich?
No, I think they could work with us.
Oh, yeah.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo? Aye. Mayor Daley?
Aye. Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, this would be number 4. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 14-016? An ordinance authorizing the execution of an annexation agreement between the Village of Homer Glen, Illinois, and Stanley and Margaret, how do you pronounce that last name? Ramia.
Sure they should.
So moved.
First by trustee Costa,
I second.
second by trustee Sweet. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Sabo?
Aye.
Trustee Sweet?
Aye.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo? Aye. Trustee K. Janice?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 14-017? An ordinance annexing certain territory to the Village of Homer Glen, Illinois, Stanley and Margaret Remnius. That's a motion. Is AL? Okay. Is there, number 5, is there a motion?
I so move.
First by trustee Sweet,
Second.
second by trustee DeVivo. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Sweet?
Aye.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo? Aye. Trustee K. Janice?
Aye.
Trustee Sabo?
Aye.
Motion carries. This would be 6. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 14-018? An ordinance granting a map amendment, amending the zoning classification of certain real property hereinafter legally described and located at 15801 West 139th Street, Lockport, Illinois, from E1 Single Family Estate Residential District to R2 Single Family Residential District, Stanley and Margaret Redmond.
So moved.
First by trustee Costa.
Second.
Second by trustee, was that Yukich?
Yes.
Trustee Yukich. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo? Aye. Trustee K. Janice?
Aye.
Trustee Sabo? Aye. Trustee Sweet?
Aye.
Okay, this would be 7. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 14-019 and an ordinance approving a plat of dedication of a public road?
So move.
First by trustee DeVivo,
I second.
second by trustee Sweet. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo? Aye. Trustee K. Janice?
Aye.
Trustee Sabo?
Aye.
Trustee Sweet?
Aye.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Motion carries. This would be number 8. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 14-020, an ordinance approving a plat or vacation of a public road?
So moved.
First by trustee Costa, second by trustee Yukich. Go ahead.
This is, I'm sorry to jump in, this is in the annexation agreement, it was something we discussed, but there could be a procedural issue involved in how the roadway is vacated to make sure that it goes to the petitioners. So I'm suggesting that this be tabled until the next meeting, until we get to another on that.
Number 8.
Yes.
Okay, is there a motion to table based upon the attorney's
I
recommendation?
so move.
First by trustee Sweet,
Second.
second by trustee DeVivo. Do we have to have the withdrawal first and second on this? No. Okay. There's no discussion on the table. All in favor, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee DeVivo? Aye. Trustee K. Janice?
Aye.
Trustee Sabo? Aye. Trustee Sweet?
Aye.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
And if I could just explain that briefly.
Okay, motion 8, or number 8 of legislation has been tabled. The attorney would like to address that one more
Just
time.
explain this briefly, the general rule for vacating a roadway is that when it's vacated, half it goes to the owner on one side, half to the other. So we want to make sure that when this is vacated, because it's in consideration as part of the annexation agreement, it's in consideration for what the owners are dedicated for the roadway on 139th Street, that the vacation occurs so that it goes right to them, it doesn't go to anyone else. So we talked about that the other day, and I talked to Aaron and Cam about that, and that's why I'm asking that it just be put off.
Okay,
We'll get that fixed for the next meeting.
thank you for the explanation. This would be number 9. Is there a motion to grant an extension of the final development plan for Water Tower Place in Homer Glen, Illinois? It is understood that this extension is for an additional 1-year period beginning on March 24th, 2014, and continuing through and including March 24th of 2015, conditioned upon all the removal of all vehicles, equipment, storage containers, and debris from the subject property by Friday, April 4th, 2014.
So moved.
First by trustee Yukich, second by trustee DeVivo. Is there any discussion?
I had a question.
Go right ahead.
Now, I realize that, we're granting an extension. And we have granted an extension on this one before, is that true?
Yes.
Okay, how many times have we granted an extension on the Gatsis property?
I'm not really positive.
Maybe 4 or 5, maybe.
Well, okay, I want to be fair about this, and not say, okay, no to this one, and then, we've said yes to the others, so.
Right, and we always, Mayor, if I could, we always meet with them. You have petitioners in the audience if you'd like to ask them any questions about how the project is moving along. We always meet with them, we get engaged, they come in, they discuss where they're at with the project. In this particular instance, staff was concerned because we saw a lot of equipment stored on there that we needed them to remove because that's not allowed in that zoning. They agreed to do it. I think they've already started taking pieces off. So they are in the audience if you want to ask them specific questions about how the project is moving. They tell us that they are still on track and they are waiting, like a number of people are, on the road construction project to be a little bit further along. But they're here if you'd like to.
Well,
ask them.
I probably have a lot of questions, so I would like them to have someone at the podium to explain what their difficulties are.
Go ahead, Boris.
Good evening. My name is Boris Koric. I'm from Legacy Development Group. I also have colleagues Leo Wolchek, who's a local resident, and Joe Fahey, who's Vice President of International Contractor, who's also our strategic building partner. So I don't even know that we really have difficulties other than the ones that come along with a project this scope. We were in front of this group a number of times. We're very honored to be back. We have always said that the road has to come first. This is a very, very major investment to the tune of about $20 million. And it would be imperative for our tenants. And we have a number of people that are interested in this project, but it's very contingent on the road coming in. We have, I think, presented this to you continually, and we are very committed to this. So I don't think it's a matter of that we're wavering. We just need to be patient to be able to be successful for the community.
Thank you, Boris. Boris did actually ask me before the meeting if the state had come up with a final date for bid letting and what have you, so they're pretty much tied to the road. That's what this is all about. Any questions? Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Pagianis?
Aye.
Trustee Sabo?
Aye.
Trustee Sweet?
Aye.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo? Aye.
Motion carries. This would be number 10. Is there a motion to direct the mayor to send a letter to the Illinois Department of Transportation concurring with the department's recommendation to award a contract to the apparent lowest responsible bidder, P.T. Farrell Construction Company, for the 151st Street and Parker Road intersection project in the amount of $1,663,345.04.
I so move.
First by trustee Sweet.
Second.
Second by who said that? Trustee Costa. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Sabo?
Aye.
Trustee Sweet?
Aye.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo? Aye. Trustee Pagianis?
Aye.
Motion carries. That concludes legislation and action items for tonight. Village Manager Davis and Chief Building Officer Faber will be presenting information to the board this evening regarding the village's existing ordinance regulating the storage of boats, large equipment, campers, mobile homes, and RVs in the village. Cam, whenever you're ready, go right ahead.
And Mayor, we'll move right along. I'll just say a couple quick things, and then Joe is going to do the presentation. So the issue of storage vehicles has been discussed for quite some time around the village, I believe. It was discussed at the Public Services and Safety Committee meeting. Staff did a couple surveys, one limited in scope, and then we broadened it out to look at the entire community to see how many residents in town had vehicles that did not meet the village's current code. What we're asking for, what staff is really asking for through this presentation is just direction from the village board about how you want us to enforce the existing ordinance, or if you want to send the existing ordinance back to the committee for revision. We just want some added direction so that everybody's on the same page and everybody knows how this is going to be enforced going forward. So Joe's got a presentation to give you, Joe, if you could. There's a lot of photos, and he's got a lot of experience with this. So.
Thanks. Thank you, Cam. Just briefly, staff is requesting, like Cam had mentioned, direction on the enforcement policy of boats, trailers, RV parking, storage regulations. We regularly receive complaints regarding the parking of the boats, trailers, and RVs from Homer Glen residents. Handed out is a copy of the existing parking and storage regulations as it pertains to the parking of such vehicles. Staff has conducted these 2 counts separate times. Each time, of course, the number changes slightly due to given on any given day, depending on the movement of these vehicles for whatever reason. I'm quickly just going to read through the existing regulations. If we're given a copy. If the owner is actively involved in maintenance, loading, or unloading of the equipment, it may be parked on a residential driveway. However, the duration does not exceed 48 hours. The equipment vehicle is parked on an approved paved surface. No part of the storage area for these vehicles is located in any required front, side, or rear setback as defined by the provisions of the ordinance. Construction, commercial vehicles, or equipment are not loaded or containing product or material unless wholly enclosed or actively involved in the project within that lot. No vehicle or equipment shall exceed an empty weight of 4 tons or an excess of 90 inches in height. This item number 6 was actually adopted and seems to be the most difficult one for the residents to comply with. That requires the equipment and vehicles to be screened from the public street and adjacent properties by a fence or landscaping. This was passed in 2008. And also there's some condition there for vehicles in case there's a fire or natural disaster that are temporary on that site. So that being said, I'm going to kind of go through some examples that show some of the situations we have in the community. This particular vehicle, it's a large RV, probably does not meet the screening requirement, and also is more likely exceeding that 90-inch height requirement for the ordinance as it stands today. Again, here's another trailer that does not meet the ordinance. It may be able to comply in the future with the lot, the way the lot is situated, and the height requirement. This particular vehicle, it is on a hard surface, but it definitely does not meet the screening requirement and is probably over the 90-inch height requirement. This boat is actually not on a hard surface. It is not screened, but it may be able to comply in the future if they were to move it back behind the front setback of the property. Notice too, it's right close along the sidewalk there. This particular trailer is on a hard surface, but it does exceed the height requirements, and this particular lot too, they may have some difficulty in meeting the setback requirement. This particular property has 2 vehicles, one in the side setback. They are on the hard surface, but do exceed the height requirement. Here's a snowmobile trailer. I just want to point out too, it doesn't have the screening, and our ordinance currently doesn't have provisions like some of the other communities for temporary storage of vehicles for seasonal purposes. Here's a trailer that doesn't meet the, camper that doesn't meet the setback, the screening, and may be able to comply in the future simply by moving it back behind the fence. Here's a boat, a little difficult to see on a circular driveway. It is on a hard surface, probably doesn't comply with the setback. And this requirement for setbacks does vary from subdivision to subdivision, depending on their type of zoning. Even though it is among bushes there, it is definitely not screened from public view. I just wanted to quickly say this, the definition of screening is decorative fencing or vegetation maintained for the purpose of concealing from view the area behind such fencing or vegetation. So it is possible to use bushes as a screening alternative. Here's a little utility trailer that would be easily brought into compliance simply by moving it behind the fence and the material added to the fence. Here's another situation where it is non-compliant. It's in the front setback, it isn't screened, and probably could comply just by moving it into the garage. This particular boat is on a hard surface. It's been there for quite some time. Does not meet the front setback requirement and is also in the right of way. This is a situation where we have multiple vehicles, a trailer, camper, boat. One of the things that is not addressed in the ordinance is a vehicle like the camper, which may be used, is legally got state license plates on it, but it may be used for a purpose other than just camping as a mode of transportation as well. There's a situation where it looks like the back camper was attempted to bring it in compliance with getting it on the setback, but the front boat obviously is in front of the setback and is not screened. Another situation where this vehicle does not meet the height requirement as well as the front setback. Here's a situation where the boat probably can comply quite easily just by getting it back a little bit farther and screening along the side there. There again though, a lot of times on these setbacks, there's certain requirements that prohibit hard surfaces within drainage easements or other types of easements, so it could be difficult or not possible to comply with the ordinance. This particular camper actually had come in about 2 years ago and applied for the permit, was designed for that side load storage area and had landscaping around the camper, but since those plantings have died and no longer are screened from public view. Another situation where the side yard or any type of storage along the side of the property would be difficult to obtain because of setback requirements. This particular camper is close to the sidewalk out in the front setback and probably does not meet the height requirement. It's hard to see on the left there is actually a boat next to the house that does comply with the ordinance. It is screened with the landscape bushes there, is in the behind the front setback, and then we have a house right next door that does not comply with the same requirements. Here's actually a house that does comply. The trailer to the left of the home there is behind the screening, and it is on a hard surface. This is an older subdivision. The new, this was done when we were Old County, so to get that hard surface at that location now probably would not be obtainable. Here's another situation where we have one with the screening in the front, on the side, on the hard surface. And this situation where we have a boat behind the white fence. We may have more of these out there in the community, but because they're screened and they're compliant, it's hard to see and we don't know where they're at. So trying to find an example like this was kind of hard to do. That kind of concludes the slide portion of my presentation here. As Cameron had mentioned, we would like to consider either option A, the ordinance being strictly enforced immediately, option B, an education and notification process being implemented, or option C, the existing ordinance being sent back to Public Services and Safety or any other directive. And I welcome any questions or discussion.
Thanks, Joe. You know, I stepped out of the room just for a second. When you did your survey, I see you say approximately 200 violators?
That's on each instance, each time we went out.
Each time you went out? Okay. So the board knows there's been, on an annual basis, on the front page, approximately 10 complaints from residents regarding this on an annual basis. So far, the way the ordinance has been implemented is more along the lines of complaint-driven. We're not actually out there trying to be the boat trailer or policeman, but the village board has to make a decision as to what they want, how they want to enforce this ordinance, or modify the ordinance to fit how you want this to go down. So with that, I will put it up. Trustee Costa?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I'm on the safety committee. We have discussed this a few times. One thing is just personally, when you look at the ordinance, there are some discrepancies in the ordinance, I think. Maybe not specifically within that ordinance, but abiding by some of our other ones. For example, what is our maximum height requirement of a fence? Is it 72 inches?
72, 6 foot.
But yet, we're saying that the RV has to be behind something completely screened by a fence, but we allow 96 inches. So right there, the people can't meet it with our fence. Secondly, if we're gonna have screenings high enough to say that you can't see the boat or trailer, how do you get the boat or trailer back there? So it's gonna be this huge tree. So personally, I don't want to belabor this too long because we have talked about it in committee, but Joe, I know we brought some of these issues up before, just recently, and then now with this. I'd like to see committee look at this real quick and massage this ordinance just a little bit, and probably come out with some modified height requirements, because really when you look at most of the height requirements, I don't know of a camper that from the ground is 96 inches high. So maybe we should look at that a little bit. Also, the screening portion of it, if we're gonna say that it has to be screened, say that, you know, with a maximum, you know, looking at ordinance with a maximum 6-foot fence. And then thirdly, come out of committee, but also have, couple that up with a good educational program to let the people know that we do have an ordinance, this is the ordinance, and that it will be, looked at and it will be enforced by a certain date. So I think maybe those 2 or 3 things we should probably do. There's certainly a lot.
Does anybody have recommendations for Trustee Costa and Yukich, who sit on the Public Safety Committee, to take into consideration? Trustee DeVivo?
Well, I agree with Trustee Costa that there probably needs to be some tweaking to this. One of the questions that I would have is, you mentioned several times that in some of the smaller subdivisions, that if they were to add a hard surface, they probably couldn't do it because of drainage areas. Maybe adding something about permeable pavers could be put into the ordinance so that people understand how they can come into compliance. Like you said, with height, there's a lot of things that probably can be done. I think you should do something about people who are creating a vision impairment, a safety issue, parking in the right of way, those types of things probably need to be looked at. But I don't agree that we should go after all of these people. I mean, we all say we live in a rural area, and that's what you get. So I think that the people in this community are parking their vehicles around, and I think that that's what they like to do. So, but I am in favor of C, looking at that ordinance.
Okay, Trustee K. Janice?
Yeah, I like Mike, Trustee Costa, I like your suggestion. You guys should tweak it and take it into consideration. One thing I look at, and I don't know heights of vehicles and what kind of vehicles there are. I don't even know how tall my truck is. But when I see 90 inches, I'm wondering if it's a one-car family And and the other vehicle that they drive, it happens to be a work truck, and that's the only thing they can afford is the work truck, and they're required to bring it to work. I don't know what kind of truck that might be. It might be a box truck, you know. So I don't know about heights, but if it's their second vehicle and it's a two-working household, that's an issue. I agree, there has to be a sight line regardless of what size vehicle or what type of vehicle or how the screening is. There still needs a sight line for safety. And that's the only third thing I'll just throw out to you guys. And I think you're addressing it anyway. I think you're good at that, so. That's it.
I would make one recommendation to Joe, though. Any vehicle that's blocking the sidewalk, public sidewalk, that doesn't have anything to do with this. You need to give them a notice and, you know, get it off.
We are going to maintain the screening requirement. It shouldn't be an issue whatsoever.
Okay.
Because fences are only allowed in certain areas, especially when you talk about anything over 4 feet, that wouldn't be an issue.
Okay. Is there any other?
I'm sorry, I would defer.
Trustee Sabo?
No. The roads that you went down, the lot sizes are small, so that
That's right.
smaller, so that complicates things. And everybody, no matter where they live, they want something. They want a camper, or they want that extra work car, or they want that second car. And if they have nowhere to put these things, you know, we've got a problem if we expect them to comply with anything. I wonder what is done in other towns. I know that sometimes they rent a storage place, you know, they're going to do that. Some people couldn't afford to do that. So we're trying to look at this in a very practical way, so that some people just don't have a place. I mean, from those slides, I mean, there are very few of them that you said could be screened or with the present ordinance, or there would be a place for it. So I'd like to know what other towns do to handle this kind of a site problem. It's really a site problem. I mean, it's a convenient issue for the people that own the vehicles.
Or if I could just
Go right ahead, Ken.
because I know the committee has talked about this for quite some time, so they'll appreciate any feedback that they can get from the group. If you look at, you know, in the backup material, Joe has the small survey that we did of communities. We only asked a couple questions, but we got a couple. If you look at that survey and there are additional questions that you would like for us to ask surrounding communities, how they handle it, just if you could just let Joe know, we'll get right on that. And the second thing is, I think one of the items that we've noticed a lot is that there's a big seasonal change to this. So the committee might appreciate if you could give it another couple minutes. The committee might appreciate your thoughts about whether or not you would be open to some seasonal language, which we don't currently have, but several communities do. And maybe, Mary, if you could maybe just go down the line if people feel comfortable saying what their thoughts are, it might help the committee out if they want. If you're totally opposed to it, they wouldn't spend any time on it. If you're open to it, then they research that.
My own opinion is, I don't think seasonal is answering anything. If somebody's gonna bring a boat, a big RV, whatever, and leave it there for the whole season. I would say consecutive days is probably something that it might be hard to monitor, but it puts a time frame on something rather than from June 1st to such and such a day, because I guarantee you, in a good portion of those situations, that big RV is going to be there 100% of the time frame you allotted. So that's just something to think about when you're working on it.
Well, yeah, I agree with probably the RV thing, but with the boats, with the snowmobiles, lots of people have summer homes and they take the boat up there and the boat's up there for a good portion of the time. Or I know people go every weekend, you know, boating. So I don't know. I wouldn't be opposed to trying some seasonal. Maybe I don't know.
It's something to look at both ways, you know.
Maybe with a maximum one.
How about you, Trustee Suisse?
I agree with option C, sending it back to the safety committee, but I too agree with maybe seasonal. In all those examples, we saw the people, you know, they don't have room to put boats and trailers, and then we would be causing them more of an expense, because now they're going to have to pay storage units if we're very, very strict. I don't know the happy medium here, maybe a certain size limitation, as far as length.
Right, and Joe just wanted me to mention, it looks when you see his pictures that maybe he just went down the streets with small lots, but out of the 200 and some odd that are not in compliance, a majority of those, a large majority of those are in subdivisions that have smaller lots. So that's why you're seeing all those
You
pictures.
probably can't see the other one.
Well, there's,
A lot of them are compliant, so
yeah, a lot of the larger
the
lots are
house
compliant.
are, you know, short on the way.
Okay, does anybody have anything else for trustee Yukich and Costa? Trustee Sabo, you want to say something? I saw your hand go up.
And the attorney had a suggestion, but I am disagreeing with him.
I suggested that everybody park their stuff over at Margaret's house.
She won't let us in the gate.
Okay, so everybody's pretty consistent with they like option C. You know, go back to public safety. You can contact Joe on any type of recommendation, village manager.
Any other questions that you
myself.
might want us to ask communities would be great. Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
that concludes the workshop then. Is there any old business?
I have
Go right ahead, trustee Yukich.
I wanted to know where we're at with notifying the public about Woodbine to get their input on what they think we should be doing with the property and the building too. And I wanted, when we were gonna have a meeting so we can figure out what we would at least like to tell the architect, because in the minutes, like they said before, says trustee Costa noted that he will begin the RFQ process within the next few weeks, and the village could be choosing an architect by mid-April or beginning of May. The village board would then have almost 4 months to discuss what we'd like to see happen with buildings, so when we do hire an architectural firm, we will be able to give them some direction. Well, it says mid-April or beginning of May, and
Right.
we're mid-March.
Right, I can tell you. Actually, I had it originally, you know, I keep in my office a kind of a flow chart for workshop sessions. And I actually had a Woodbine feedback session scheduled for your next workshop. It has now, unfortunately, been displaced by the need to get workshop and feedback on Bell Road. Because as you know, we just got that notice from the county. They only gave us 30 days. We have to get on that, which is why I keep handing out and mention the questions. So that is going to be at your next meeting now, and I have a feeling that's going to be a lengthy discussion. So I don't think it would probably be good to have 2 workshop sessions. So I'm going to move it into April. I can't tell you which one because we have a budget workshop on one. So it might be the second meeting in April. But it'll happen probably given the timeline and the number of RFQs that we got. Trustee Costa has a stack in front of him. It's like probably, I don't know, a foot thick. Given the response we got, it is going to take us a little bit longer to work through the RFQ process. So we're going to have that discussion prior to the architects coming in and give you presentations. So I think it'll all work out.
Yeah, we currently
Good
do
question, thank
22 RFQs of about that big a piece, so it's
Right.
taking us a little bit of time to get through them.
Well, I just want to make sure that we do give at least notification to those residents where they do have some time, because like you said, once you get the architect hired, we do want them to start.
Right.
At least we can give them a little guidance, that's all.
Right, absolutely. And real quick, if you give me just 1 minute, I just want to mention again, you do have something in your mailbox about that Bell Road thing, if you could pick it up when you leave tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Is there
I think
any
I
other
signed
old
it.
business?
It's in enough.
Okay, is there any new business then? Trustee Costa?
Just 2 very brief comments. First, our village manager mentioned about our next workshop would be to talk about Bell Road. I'd like to make a suggestion that we invite our county board members to let them know we will be discussing that, because I'm sure they're going to be interested in what the board and possibly public comment has to say about what we saw in the design. Second thing is, we saw tonight that, you know, although we've had something in place, like an annexation agreement in place for 10 or 12 years, I think it would be important for us to know, or at least staff, to research developments and get files together so that if something comes up about a development, that we know that there's an agreement, or if there's agreement in there, there were special terms, let's say from years ago, that we may not have been on the board about, would certainly help us in looking at various situations and issues. Example, Waterfall Places here, these gentlemen really want to get this thing going. And, you know, possibly by time this comes for, you know, for a final vote, you could have new board members here. And if my memory serves me correct, I believe there was something in the verbiage that possibly designated or granted or insinuated that 2 liquor licenses could go with the property. So, you know, it'd be nice if we had all that at our fingertips, or the next board, whoever it may be, has it at their fingertips, so that you don't have these lengthy discussions saying, wait a minute, I don't know if we should do this now. No, if that's an agreement, if that was something that was put in place X years ago, if that's what we have to honor, there shouldn't be a long, lengthy discussion about it. It's just an opinion. That's my idea. It's adding more to staff.
No, I think actually, if I could, Trustee, I should just say, it's actually one of Aaron's goals and objectives, because the trouble with having a small staff is that it only takes 1 or 2 people to leave, and you lose so much knowledge about what's transpired over the past couple of years, or what they've built up over the time they've been here. So what she's doing is, for these various developments, she's working on creating pages that give a summary for the developments that haven't occurred yet, but have been approved. She's working on doing pages and summarizing and how often there have been extensions and stuff like that. So that if, you know, she's a good, strong professional, young person, she might get another job. If she leaves, we lose so much information. So she is actually trying to replicate all this stuff. And then, of course, what we'll be able to do is when you actually act on an item like you did tonight, Mark, she'll be able to insert that sheet with it so that you can see a history sheet. So she's working on it. The trouble is, she's working on 100 things. So it's on her list and she is working on it. So I thank you. It's a great idea. She's working on it.
Is there any other new business? All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
First by trustee Costa.
Second.
Second by trustee Yukich. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion adjourned, or meeting adjourned.